Is there anything else that you would like to add? Anything that you thought you would tell me and you didn't tell me, or something I cut you off and you were just about to say something brilliant?
Probably very unlikely. Oh, I know. Okay, I actually want to talk to you about this. It's weird because like a couple times I've been confronted with this idea of like the tragic mulatto, and like that bothers me. Like that is like, I think I try to like think of myself as like an easygoing, nice person, but if you say those phrases to me like a phrase, I can't like control my reaction. Like I can't promise you that I won't like go for your eyes. You know what I mean? Like
well, that's what I think those white people are kind of like. Oh, you poor tragic mulatto. Right, exactly. Was that hard for you? They just left out
the tragic part.
Yeah.
But what's weird is the actual. Okay, so like white people are like trying to pull like the whole sympathy thing, but black people are like from black people I've been called like a gray baby, a ghost, Oreo, things like that, and I've actually heard the tragic mulatto from them. Like, oh, you know, you're just a tragic mulatto. Like, you know, that's all you are. And I'm like, you know, you went to a white school, you speak properly. You know, all this stuff, you know, you clearly have no identity, you don't know who you are, you're confused, and all this stuff, and I'm like, what about me makes you, it just makes me so angry, and so like, you know, and I've had debates with black people, like, I'm like, there is no such thing as a tragic mulatto anymore. I'm like, you know, you identify with the way you identify based on your circumstances, you can't call it, there's nothing tragic about it, you know, it's like, if you identify with being white, that's your choice, you know, and I feel like as mixed people, we have that choice. If you want to identify with being white, good for you, I'm not going to criticize you, I'm not going to fault you, you know, if you want to tell the world that you're white and claim your black side, not at all, I mean, not my choice, but it's your choice, you know
right.
what I'm saying? And you can make that choice, especially if only your mom was there raising you and all you think is that you're Polish, I don't know, you know, like, you can make
and especially if that's true and you look white.
Right, exactly.
Like, should you, like, carry a sign that says, right. By the way, I really am half black or black,
right,
you know?
Exactly, you know, and so I mean, like,
so,
so for some people I can understand it, and I can understand the opposite way. It's like if you are darker complected or have kinkier hair, grew up in the hood or whatever, and like all you had was black people growing up, and that's what you think you are, and your parent was like, who cares about that white parent, whatever, you know, or even if they were there, like that's what I'm saying. Like I don't understand. Like I don't think that there's such. Like I guess that's my point. Like I don't think there's a tragic mulatto. Like, and I get really upset when people try to still, even after all this time, push that on us, and like, you know, the idea that we're confused in some way.
It's because they're confused.
Exactly.
And this is like, in my opinion, what happened. It was like white people needed to make sure that they stated it on the top. It was like, don't you dare procreate with these animals because X, Y, and Z. But well, there's this figure now that we just call it the tragic mulatto, and it's so sad because they're almost white, but they never will be white. And even if they know some, you know, of the perks of whiteness, it's too bad that to most people they really will just be another nigger hanging from a tree. That's what I get. You would have been hanging from a tree too.
Exactly.
You know, and it's like, well, great. Thanks for that.
I used to get in these like quasi fake arguments with like some of my darker complected friends, and they're like, oh, you would have been a house slave, and I'm like, yeah, at least I wouldn't have been out picking cotton. Like I'd rather be a house slave than picking cotton. Like, you know, completely joking, but
right.
You know, right? It's the truth,
but it is, and that's what makes them say that, I think, because it's like, even if we were slaves, we'd still have a leg up or something. I don't know, but it's just been ingrained in everyone, and most mixed people to the point that we won't talk about it because we're going to get all this, and who wants to hear about it, and I'll just be who I think I am alone in my room or whatever.
Exactly. It's like there's no, like, you know, if you like walk into rooms, like you can't quite stand with the mixed people or the white people, you can't quite stand with the black people, you know, there's always like, you know, it's like they're always going to be like, oh, you're not quite one of us, you know, no matter what side you are. And there
aren't enough of us ever in one place, in my experience, to feel like, you know, and even like you said, your cousins that are biracial, you never really talked about it. And I had a few friends that were biracial, not really till college, but it was kind of like, if anything between us, it was like a joke. Like, you know, like just something that we would flippantly joke about having a white parent or not being all that black, and you know, just like a fleeting thing that really wasn't anything to discuss. So I just feel like we do a disservice to like the society in America by not talking about it and not helping unconfuse everyone else about what this is, because they don't get it.
And like it's definitely a fight too. It's not like, and that's like,
it's not peaceful. It's like
no one. I mean, obviously no one questions the white experience over, but like it's like nobody questions. Like it's like if you're black, you don't question the black experience. You know, it's like that's your experience. But for us, it's like, you know, black people are like, well, I don't think it was this way, or I don't, you know, whatever, I don't, you know, you're confused, or you're this, or you're that, and like, you're putting all of your baggage onto me, right? And it's like, if I tell you that this was my experience, you should just accept that's what it is, you know? And like, I know, like, one of the most like profound things that I've heard, like, I don't know if you're familiar with Tim Wise, but he's like an
I love him.
Yeah, he's great. So I saw him speak at U of M, and like, yeah, he was awesome. And so, and I actually had a few like friends who were anti-affirmative action who walked away from his speech becoming pro-affirmative action after listening to him. One of the greatest things he said was like, he's like, you know, I'm a white man standing up here, and I'm telling you that affirmative action is necessary, and a lot of you are going to believe me just because I'm white and you identify with me, but that's ridiculous. It's like, I'm going to tell you that you're fools and you're ridiculous. Like, you know, tell them like it is. If a black person says, I got followed in a store, or I didn't understand this SAT question, or whatever, this is harder for me because I'm black, because my skin is dark, you need to believe them. That is their experience. That's all there is to it. You don't walk around questioning your own experience. You don't walk around questioning your friend's experience. Why do you question a black experience? Why do you think that they're making this up? They're not. What reason do they have to make it up? What is the point? There is no point. If it was truly, everything was truly equal, as you think it is, this would not be necessary. So clearly it's not equal because it is necessary, and it's stupid of you to question otherwise. And I think it's completely applicable to the mixed experience. It's like, if I am telling you that this is what it is, why are you questioning me about it?
Absolutely, 100%. And I was talking about transracial adoption, and I was thinking that one of the things that I think, because that is white guilt and denial of white guilt is questioning the experience. It's like they can't accept that this could possibly be true, because then everything is unfair and it's somehow at fault for partaking, and they get the better end of that stick. And I think our parents being in interracial relationships, our white parent has somehow seen the reality. They sort of lost some of their white privilege by being in this family, and so they get it. So when I say to my dad, I got kicked off of this airplane because I'm black, or this doctor treated me like shit because I'm black, he's not like, oh no, that's not true. Whereas I could see like two white parents of a black child just not wanting that to be true for their child, and like being like, oh no honey, that doesn't happen, it must have been whatever, you know. You need that validation. You need someone to say, oh my god, isn't the world awful sometimes?
And somewhere recently I saw some quote about like Brad Pitt talking about how he had gone to like a hair store or something like that, or like to take care of something. I forget what the little girl's name is. Like, he was talking about how he's learning, you know, things about like taking care of black hair, and I thought that was so cool. And I was gonna say, on your point about like the white parent like getting it, like definitely like my dad has had some really interesting stories about like things that like white people would say, like not knowing that he was married to a black woman, and like thinking that they were like in like, you know, only black company, and like crazy things. And he'd be like, this is the kind of stuff I'm privy to. And of course, you know, he would speak up and be like, oh, but he won't be like, it's really, my dad's kind of funny because he wouldn't necessarily be like, you shouldn't talk that way. He would just be like, yeah, my wife is black, and just leave it at that, you know, and like just leave them to sit there and feel stupid about themselves, you know. Okay, one story I would tell you as a clothing, like great experience my parents had. I always make my mom tell this story to people because I think it's like, almost is like unbelievable that to me that this happened to them. It was in like, it was like the 1970s, and they were driving in Toledo. They were still dating. Obviously, they were much younger, and they were still dating. And they had left. There's a nice part of the Toledo area called Sylvania, and it's like predominantly white, a lot of Jewish people, kind of upper class, and that's where my dad's family lived. And they had just left my dad's parents' house, and they were driving in the car, and they got onto the highway, and like this car kind of like got behind them and was kind of like, you know, like harassing them or whatever. And then like I think they had some sort of loudspeaker or something like that, and basically told them to pull over. And they came around. My dad was driving. They came around to the car, and they said, you know, we are plainclothes policemen, and we're looking for a couple that fits your description of one of those, you know, those lines. We need you to get out of the car. And so my dad was like, my dad turned, and they had rifles. So that was the other thing. They had rifles, and they surrounded the car. And my dad told my mom, you know, whatever, my mom's name is Valerie. They're like, Valerie, whatever happens, do not get out of the car. Lock the doors. Whatever they do to me, it doesn't matter. Do not get out of the car. And so they basically, you know, pulled my dad out of the car, and they frisked him, and they started harassing him, and they threw him up against the car, and they were like, you know, questioning him and all this stuff. And the other guy came around the passenger side and was like banging on the window with the butt of the rifle and put the gun in my mom's face, and you gotta get out of the car. You gotta get out, you know, get out of the car. We need all this stuff. And my dad kept telling my mom from outside, do not get out of the car, do not get out of the car. And eventually, I don't remember how the situation got diffused, but eventually they let them go. But like, that was like in the north, in Toledo, Ohio, in the 70s. Like, not even in like, you know, south and segregated, anything like that, you know. And like, that kind of stuff, like, you know, like that's like that's the legacy, you know. And it's like, and my parents are like, every time we go to a restaurant, like we never seem to be a family, you know. They're always asking us, you know, how many people in your party, when they don't ask anybody else.
Right.
Is this going to be on separate checks? You know, until it got to the point that my parents were like, well, why would it be on separate checks? And the waitresses, of course, get really flustered, and they're like, oh, well, you know, we ask everyone that's protocol, and clearly, you know, it's not. But, you know, they need to save face and things like that. You know, and I mean, it's like 27 years later, you get a little tired of that kind of like crap.
Definitely.
But, you know, and they've gotten pulled over, they get harassed so much, and it's weird because it's like they get harassed more as an interracial couple than I ever have as a mixed person, or ever have had to deal with, like, as a minority or mixed person in any way, you know. And just hearing their stories, it just makes me scared. It's like, it makes me scared for, I mean, I'm like, it's amazing that we have Obama in office, but it makes me scared at the same time.
I'm so scared for him.
It's terrifying, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, and people who are like, I had an argument on Facebook with somebody who was like, I heard he had a book saying he wanted to kill all white people, and I'm like, I asked her, I'm like, so you telling me he wanted to kill his mom? He wanted to kill his grandmother? What are you saying? Like, do you really, like, do you think about what's coming out of your mouth? Please, like, you know, it's just,
yeah, like, do you have to believe everything that you heard that somebody else read?
Right. This is the woman who raised him, and she was white. Why would he, like, even, you know, if there was, let's entertain for a second that was even completely possibly true at all, right?
Well, thank you so much.
Anytime.
I'm so excited about this interview.